Good evening. My name's Steve Chaconas, and welcome to It's Your Business. My guest today is a very interesting man. He's probably someone that you've seen on television, heard a lot about, and what we're going to talk to him about today is a lot of philosophy. Philosophy about life, conditioning, keeping your body and your mental spirit in condition. We're also going to talk about his philosophy on this country, because he has shown throughout the past that he's a very patriotic man, and he loves this country, something that a lot of us could get back to. And in doing research for this show, I asked a lot of people what they would like to ask my guest, and my guest today is Jhoon Rhee. What I asked them, what would you like to ask Jhoon Rhee? And a lot of the people told me that they were wanting to know about Jhoon Rhee, what his life was like, how he got started in this country. I even asked little kids. I asked little kids if they knew who Jhoon Rhee was, and they did. They said, nobody bothers me. They even knew his phone number. I asked the same kids if they knew who George Bush was. None of them knew who George Bush was, but they all know who Jhoon Rhee is. Jhoon, I'd like to welcome you to my show today. Appreciate you stopping by.
Steve, I'm honored to be invited here today.
I'm the one who's honored. How'd you get started in the, you call it martial arts? Is that what you call what you do?
Yes, it's Taekwondo is a Korean martial art, and I started when I was 14 years old. And the reason I really applied myself in my English class in high school is because I want to come to the United States to spread the Taekwondo.
And where are you from?
And from Korea.
Korea.
Yes, I came after 10 years after I started my Taekwondo when I was in 14. So 24 years old, I was as a student here in San Marcos, Texas, and I studied civil engineering there.
Why did you get in? How did you get into the Taekwondo? Was it something that someone coming? You know, our stories in this country about the guy who gets sand kicked in his face and decides he's going to.
Well, let me tell you this true story. That when I was 7 years old, 6-year-old girl beat me up, and I cried. Came home, and my mother beat me up again, so I cried again. And so I said to myself, I got to do something about it. And so pondering for many years, and when I was 14. And I saw the advertising and Taekwondo, at that time they called the Tangsudo studio. So I registered myself, and ever since then I've been really in it.
Okay. Okay, so at age 7 you decided, hey, I got to do something about it. At age 14 you got into it. How has your attitude or your involvement changed with age?
Well, when I was 14, of course, I didn't have the view, the ideas that I have now. You know, idea grow just like our life grow. And, and when I accomplished so much, now next step is little bigger ideas, so on. And now I have really a global idea how we can make our society a happy place to live for everybody, every breath of life. I believe that's the only thing that he has created and designed, and by our choice that we are not really living in that kind of society. And so we have to choose that.
So initially you did it for yourself. When did you start teaching the Taekwondo? Well,
I started teaching in the Korean Army. Right before I came to here, to America, I was in the Army for 5 years. Then I came to University of Texas, San Marcos, Texas, Southwest Texas State Teachers College then. For 2 years, I taught there. And then University of Texas, I taught for 2 years. Then I came to Washington. And then ever since then, I've been teaching martial art, Taekwondo in this country.
How do you feel about this country, Jim?
Well, this is the country of a miracle. And especially when I first came, 1956, I just couldn't believe what I saw with my eyes. And now I can't believe what's happening to this country today. And so I'm concerned. And so
what do you think's happening to this country? It seems okay. Are we having problems?
Well, that's the problem. See, American people really do not really know how serious our problem is. I mean, until the individual really face everything, all this problem we're talking about, drug and AIDS problem, these two problems. I mean, there are millions of symptoms of problems we have in our society, but there's only one cause.
Which is?
Education of people. That's right. We are a product of education, and our founding fathers advocated discipline in education. In other words, without discipline, we never can be learning, because that's why the disciples, the word came from discipline. You know, when you have a good discipline, you become good disciple, so you become good learner. Otherwise, without discipline, it's impossible. That's what separates from all other animals. The human being separates from all of the animals.
Is that we're disciplined? How do we learn? We're not learning discipline anymore? Is this something that's... Obviously, the family unit in this country has changed throughout the last 50 or 60 years. We've gone from an extended family where mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, everybody was there and everybody had a role in training the children, to now where we have a mother and father who both sometimes work and the kids are left to learn on their own. What kind of role do you play in this?
Well, I like to see that it's not really a lack of ideas. It's a lack of doing. In other words, we need more examples in our society, from politicians to all the religious leaders and all the teachers in school and parents in home. In other words, they say something, but they are not doing, so children recognize that.
Mm-hmm. They see the inconsistencies.
That's right. For example, our son, you have to be totally honest to be a good boy. Then a minute later, the son says, "Daddy, telephone." Daddy says, "Tell him I'm not here." I mean, the children...
It's not funny, but it happens.
It is.
That's what they see.
Children, the daddy doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's so conditioned, so it doesn't bother him. So the child will not talk back to father because maybe smacked. But in his mind, hey, daddy just told me not to lie, and he's lying. I mean, he will think about that. And so, whenever that, compounded in every day, and I mean, children just grow with a lie. Mm-hmm. And so we all become the victim of our social environment and home environment.
Well, what do you do in your lessons to the kids? Okay, let's just take the kids, for instance.
All right,
what
so
kind of values
the first thing we teach is our slogan. We all have to be truly confident through a balanced education that pertains to knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body. When you have all these three, you are a perfect person. And a lot of people, all our society has been teaching, including churches and all the religious leaders have been saying, it is impossible for us to be perfect. And I'm start saying, yes, it is possible to be perfect, and let's redefine what perfection means. Human perfection means a person who never make mistakes intentionally. You don't have to know everything. That's impossible. That's impossible. But not doing anything that you think is wrong, that is within your control. So if we can teach that, our children, and let them grow with that idea, and let them practice by enforcing by parents and teachers. If they condition for 21 years, never make mistakes knowingly, when they become 21 years old, they all become automatically perfect person, never make mistakes knowingly.
So you give them those guidelines to go by. What actually happens in your classroom? I'm calling your workout area, your Taekwondo as a classroom. Is that right?
Well, I think in order to be for a person to be healthy, there are three things. Physically healthy, you have to have a proper diet. You have to eat good.
Sure.
And you have to rest properly, and you have to exercise properly. That's three things you have to do. Mm-hmm. And that's a physical health. But mental health is the same way. You have to eat properly. What? Words of wisdom. You see, that's why even Bible says so, the Buddha says so, that man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And so your word of wisdom, that make your mental body, grow. Then you have meditation. And that's the mental resting. Mm-hmm. See, meditation is they just like equivalent to your body sleeping. And so you become very, very calm and rest. And you're still not sleeping physically. And that's a prayer. It's the same thing. And the Buddhists, they call it meditation. And that gives your spiritual, the relaxation. Then the exercise part of a mental part of exercise is the creativity, exercising the creativity. See, we are all born to be a co-creator. See, God create all the natural things and the principles. We create all the artificial things. That's how we make our society perfect.
Well, you start off, how young are the kids that come to see you?
We start from 4 or 5 years old.
4 or 5 years old. How can a 4 or 5-year-old grasp these concepts?
Don't have to.
Well, what do you teach them?
See, they are waiting to be led and guided and disciplined. We call joy of discipline, you see. When you discipline them, they don't like until they do. Once they do it, they love it.
Well, how do you discipline a 4 or 5-year? How did you discipline your own kids?
Okay, first thing we teach is a charyo. Charyo means attention. Attention, when I say attention, the definition of attention means your eyeballs don't move, nothing move. Your bee sting on your nose, you don't chase that either. I mean, that's a very serious technique of martial art. Once we teach our young children, totally undivided attention. That's the first martial art techniques.
I'm sure there are a lot of teachers out there that are saying, oh my goodness, let him come to my classroom for just one day.
Then second, we keep very proper bowing. Can I just act?
Sure.
차려. 경례. 경례 means bowing. In mind, we teach them to say, thank you, sir. So if you teach two things, a totally undivided attention and respect for teachers. Make them, because they are children, we can make them, we can relieve them to like teachers.
So they know they're getting something from the teacher.
Of course, once they do these two techniques mastered, everybody should be straight A students, unless they have some really, the medical problem. You see, everybody is a fully potential genius. We're all born to be genius.
Okay, you've taken the kids that are 4 or 5 years old. They're ripe. They're ready for you to do this with it, and it's easy to get. What happens when you get a teenager in there? Let's say a teenager who's grown up. Okay, this is what the teenagers of our country grow up with, Jhoon. They grow up seeing basketball players who do nothing more than play basketball. Their grades are terrible in school. Half of them are on drugs. Well, a lot of them are on drugs. And they're having a lot of problems, discipline problems. But they see that's the way to become successful. Somehow they get steered into your group. What happens to a kid like that?
So see, that's why as I said earlier, we need examples. Now, all the movie stars and athletes are examples for children. When top water is contaminated, the bottom stream is also contaminated. And so they have to be first clean up themselves. So that children will really try to copy those heroes. And politicians, they don't care about they have no wisdom to really appreciate the value of politicians yet. And so I think the movie stars and the athletes, they have to be really clean up their act for our children's sake. You see, they become model. And that's what I'm trying to promote all over the world right now, giving the seminars. And I'm doing especially all the martial artist champions and the studio owners gathers about 30 and 40. In fact, this weekend I'll be doing in Texas, Austin, Texas. I have done already for about 35 of them. And so we are doing something to really produce many example teachers in martial arts studios so that they, in turn, produce many example children. And our goal is to reverse the peer pressure among adolescents.
Okay, well, you do have, if you have role models, that's going to help. But what happens when that kid comes in there who's grown up his whole life with the role models that we have now, and he comes to you, he's 13 years old, and he says, I want to participate in your program. How do you work in getting across to a kid like that?
Well, let me tell you, there is a boy, 12, and his mother said, Master Rhee, my son, you are just next to God. If you just tell him how important it is to make good grades, I think he will apply. He's very bright, but he doesn't apply himself. So I spoke to him just 2 minutes. Straight F students. And he became right away D.C. students. Then within 6 months B, and within a year made straight A's. And now he is a lawyer. He finished Yale University, the law school, just last year. Now he's preparing a bar exam. His name is Jeff Clone.
How does that happen? I mean, what'd you say to this kid in 2 minutes that his parents couldn't get across to him, that his own religious person couldn't get across to him, his teachers couldn't get across to him? What did you do in 2 minutes?
Because I'm hero, he accepts anything that heroes tells him.
So what you're saying is getting our heroes to clean up their act.
That's right.
Getting our religious and political leaders, our actors and our athletes to clean up their act, and we'll have a good path for them to follow.
That's right. That's right.
Other people coming to see you. Okay. Why? Who's coming to see you these days?
Well, I have a dozen congressmen I'm teaching. I've been teaching for 21 years. And they have been really applying themselves in coming at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish at 9 o'clock. For 21 years I've been teaching at the Rayburn House Gymnasium. Mm-hmm. It's only allowed for congressmen only. And I have trained over 100 senators and congressmen in the last 21 years.
Now, are they more concerned with learning the self-defense? Are they trying to learn some of the values? What is it that they're trying to get out of it?
Well, it's really everything. It's really exercise, physical conditioning, and competence through being able to take care of yourself in case you face confronted in a dark alley with some evil elements. Mm-hmm. and discipline. And in fact, yesterday, he even told me, you can quote me, Mr. Rhee, you really changed my life.
Who's this?
The Congressman Bob Livingston from Louisiana. Mm-hmm. He even yesterday, today said 2 days ago, Thursday.
Given our situation in society today, we have a lot of crime. In Washington, D.C., just about every day, somebody's being murdered. Are you having more people coming to you saying because they're just scared? I mean, they're scared about what's out there, and they're coming to you saying, I need to learn how to defend myself.
Many of them are, yes. Yes, many of them are scared. That's why they're coming. Many of them are coming. Many of them are staying because it's good for exercise and their mental discipline. And so we have now 11 studios in Washington, D.C. area alone. We just opened up.
How many nationwide? How many studios?
I have about 60 affiliated to my system, but they don't call Jhoon Rhee. Some of them call, but most of them are member of a World Martial Art Congress for Education. Mm-hmm. I organized the martial art leadership for educational purpose, our kids. Mm-hmm. So I'm really forming now Renaissance Youth Education Foundation. And this organization will do a lot of drug rehabilitation training and seminars, and I'm talking to Department of Justice, Education, HHS, and Action government agency, and they all really feel very, very comfortable with what I have to say.
So we've got Jhoon Rhee the master, Jhoon Rhee the teacher. You mentioned earlier before we went on camera, you taught Bruce Lee?
Yes, I taught him how to kick, and I got a lot of ideas. He taught me how to use more
Redskins could use
hand techniques. So we really exchanged the idea.
What do you propose as the purpose of life?
I teach them the basic value and purpose of human life. Once you know that, if I ask you, what's your purpose of eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, and touch, you will answer just like that. And everybody will answer unanimous, same answer, universal common answers there. Mm-hmm. But if I ask you, what's the purpose of your life? You're stuck.
Yeah.
And we are not really clear with our purpose of life. And I clarify that so that everybody, I never thought of it that way.
What do you propose as the purpose of life?
Well, it's very simple. In other words, it's the reality that most people cannot answer. And if they answer, they have all different answers. But there is a universal common purpose. I call it happiness. Mm-hmm. Then how can they get that happiness? There's just a very clear-cut, step-by-step procedure. Everybody can be happy. That's why I say, through education, we can create a society in which everybody is happy every breath of life. And I believe, I really almost know he designed nothing but that. Otherwise, he doesn't deserve to be honored from me. Mm-hmm. And under that condition, and he has done everything he can, and only left undone job is our job. And I'm calling, let's do that job. What is that? Never make mistakes knowingly. That's a true freedom. We talk about freedom, oppression by another person. True freedom is free from sin. Never make mistakes knowingly. That is the true freedom. That's the ultimate freedom that all humankind must face and realize it. I really believe that we can live up to 150 years old. I believe that. See, the essence of the universe is the mind. The next essence of the universe is the energy. Your body is nothing but just energy. So the body energy always receives a command from the mind. And so your mind say, when you become 80, you say, I'm old. I'm old. Then my body cell says, yes, sir, I'm old. And then you just get it, you're
so
old.
You start doing old things.
That's
like
right.
You retire.
That's right.
You slow down on your exercise.
So you should say, I'm young, I'm young. When you're 100, you say, I'm young. My body cell respond to me, yes, sir, I'm young. Yes, sir, I'm young. And the cell stays young. Because always whatever mind tells, the energy follow.
You seem to be very patriotic and obviously love this country very much. You brought this by to share with us, and I'd like you to basically tell me what this is all about.
This is the Human Stars and Stripes, and I had the honor of serving national chairman for July 4th in 1982, and that happened to be 100th year of the political diplomatic relationship between my mother country, Korea, and America. And this is 229 Jhoon Rhee students, each representing 1 million, which means 229 million American population was represented by 229 Jhoon Rhee students. And we performed Chosang, martial ballet that I choreographed. And to honor, Chosang means ancestor, to honor George Washington. And George Washington is the greatest man ever lived in my heart. And so he's my true hero.
Why? Why is he your hero?
Because
he's the first president of this country?
No, I think the Thomas Jefferson, the wisdom is way higher than George Washington. But the conviction, commitment, and love for country and for humanity, nobody passed George Washington. And when he said, when everybody tried to make him king, and he said, nope. When everybody tried to convince him that without you, America fall if you don't run for third time, and he said, nope. He said, no one is indispensable in human history. I mean, what a great statement that is. And without him, America may never be today. We may still be living in primitive life. You see, birth of America is not that important. The birth of freedom in America in 1776, that is important. From there, and everything happened, you see, when freedom was guaranteed to American people. Everything happened, because when freedom of religion was guaranteed, we are guaranteed to free to think and express. And as a result, electricity, light bulb, telephone, automobile, airplane, refrigerator, everything came from this country.
Because we had the freedom to think.
That's right.
The freedom to enter business.
Incentive is there.
That's right. We are a capitalist society, and that's what makes it possible. And speaking of capitalism, you're a businessman now. How is Jhoon Rhee the businessman? What is he like?
Well, I was a businessman until 3 years ago, and I just turned all my business to my cousin and my son. They are running the day-to-day operation, and so that I can free myself to go around every city and give my seminars. My seminar begin from 6 in the morning to midnight for 2 nights and 3 days. And this is a really total commitment. And I try to follow the total commitment that George Washington gave for the mankind, and that's what I'm trying to do. I guess another thing I want to clarify, the patriotism for America's sake, and the forgetting about other country, that's evil. Patriotism for America for the world's sake. I want to see America become model country once again for the rest of the world.
Everybody looks up to
That's
us.
right.
Jhoon, I want to thank you very much for stopping by and chat with me.
Thank you very much.
We've been talking to Jhoon Rhee this evening, and we've seen a lot. We've seen a young man coming to this country from Korea, working his way up, who's developed a love for this country and a love for mankind, and has a philosophy and an ideal which maybe, if it permeated our society, we could get rid of a lot of the problems that have infected it lately. And I want to thank him again. Thank you very much, sir. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Good night.